Hello, this is Ben with the DIY Homefront, and today we're going to do another episode in the workout room. First thing I wanted to do is show you some old furniture that I built a long time ago, and then we'll put together a new table with 2 chairs. Well, let's get into it. This is the stand for the TV that goes in the corner. And I made this, and I have reworked it twice. At one point, this leg went all the way up. And at one point, the brace in the back went all the way up. But I have trimmed and modified this twice since I built it to fit in the corner. And crazy as it is, I don't know if you can recognize that, but the T111 siding that we have on the house, that's T111 siding I just cut into strips. And some leftover plywood, and it's just been painted black, and that's it. And I'll probably get the black paint out and touch it up again, especially the one spot in the back there. But this will end up in the corner with the TV on it. Well, that's enough of the TV stand. Let's get back to what this video is about. We went to all of our local furniture stores and couldn't find any furniture that we liked. So I spent an evening looking at tables and chairs on Amazon and finally came to a 42-inch table that we thought would work really well. It was probably around the middle price range, and if you're curious about the manufacturer and how to get them, I'll leave that information in the video description below. So once I have everything unboxed, I got the directions out so I could read those before we started putting everything together. So with the table, it was pretty straightforward. There was a pedestal that had 4 legs that went onto the bottom of it. And then there was a bracket that attached to the pedestal and that attached to the table. And it had 2 wooden slides that would go out to hold up the folding portions of the table. Each of the 4 legs had a wooden dowel and a metal threaded rod already inserted. The threaded rod had a protective cover over it, and those slid into 2 holes that were on the bottom of the pedestal. All the fasteners, like the screws, nuts, and a metal wrench, were attached to a piece of cardboard and labeled according to the directions. That made it easy to figure out what went where. As I sorted through the screws, I didn't tighten anything up, but I put them where the directions said they should go. The legs were held on with a washer, a lock washer, and then a nut. So I'll go ahead and get the other 3 on before I tighten these nuts all the way up. It would have been nice to have smaller hands for this step. It took a few minutes getting all the fasteners on, but then I could take my ratchet and a socket and tighten them all up. And just like that, the legs are attached to the pedestal, and we can move on to attaching the top. There's a place for 4 screws to attach to the top of the pedestal. And this is that piece of wood with the 4 holes for those 4 screws. The fasteners also came with an Allen wrench, which I'm using to tighten these screws down. I had to get the directions out and look over them again real quick to make sure I had these slides installed the right way. It turns out these slides aren't actually attached to the top of the table. They're actually loose and get held in place by the base of the table, which gets screwed down to the top. When you put furniture together at home from a store, make sure you pay attention to the screws. It would be really bad to put these in and find out that they went through the top of the table on the other side because they were too long or the wrong screws. The only thing we have to do to complete the table is to put these 2 wedges on the folding portion of the table. They will engage those slides and hold up the folding portions. And they're held in place with 2 small brass Phillips screws. I'll give the screwdriver a couple of good taps, and that will create a divot for the screw to get started. I'll repeat the same steps on the other side, and we'll be able to set this table up and see what it looks like. Well, to be an inexpensive table, it looks really nice, and the dark wooden top and black base will go good with the exercise equipment in this room. When it came time to assemble the chairs, the first thing I did was unpack them. I took all the pieces out and made 2 separate piles. That way I could ensure that I had all the correct components to make each chair, and that included going through all the hardware and making sure that I had the appropriate amount of screws and fasteners for each chair. Once I confirmed I had all the pieces for each individual chair, I could start the assembly process. A quick review of the directions and we can begin. It looks like there's 6 separate attachment points on the back of the chair. And I can't put it on wrong because the back of the chair is curved and the front of the chair is not. On this particular chair, there were really long screws that went on the corners and shorter screws that held other components together. I won't tighten down these long screws or these 2 short screws until I get the whole chair together. And here's one of those long screws going in a corner. Okay, the seat and the back of the chair are attached with the screws, and I've tightened them down as hard as I can by hand. There's a support brace that goes from the back leg to the front leg of the chair, and each end was labeled with a sticker to make it easy to figure out which end went to the back leg, and they were held in place with screws. Here you can see the white stickers on the front legs to make sure you put them on the right sides. And they're held in place with 2 more long screws and then 1 screw through that support brace. I'll put the 2 screws in both sides of the front legs, and then I'll get my impact driver out and I will actually tighten these all the way up. Well, here's just a friendly reminder. If you like my content and you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. Now I'll put the last screw in this brace that goes from the front leg to the back leg, and I can go ahead and tighten this one all the way down too. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten up the screws for the back of the brace. When I was much younger, I used to work at an office supply company, and I've got a cheat for you that's going to help things out. You don't tighten up the screws for the chair legs until it's standing upright on a flat level surface. That's the best way to make sure that all the legs have contact with the ground. So when you tighten the screws down, you shouldn't have any wobble to the chair. And if you've got a chair with wobbles, you can try the same thing. You can loosen up all the screws for the legs, make sure they have contact with the floor, and then tighten them back up. I guess my last word of wisdom would be, if you are using an impact driver, be careful with it. You can strip these screws out, and then you'll be in a pickle. Okay, well, I've still got one more chair to put together, but it goes together the same way. The deep brown and the dark black of the table and chairs really goes well together and makes the space look very warm and inviting. And I find the details on the base of the table make it look more expensive than it is. Well, there you go. The chairs are comfortable and the table fits this space perfectly. They're not too hard to assemble, so maybe this gives you some ideas for a space in your house. Well, until the next time, like, subscribe, check out my playlist, and I'll see you in another video.